You're lying in bed. Your partner is beside you. The bedroom door is shut. The lights are off. Outside, the rest of the world fades into silence. For a few precious hours, you're completely alone. Now imagine trying to explain this moment to someone who lived 50,000 years ago. A room with only 2 people in it? A door you can lock? A bed no one else shares? They'd think you were describing royalty. Because for almost 99% of human history, this moment simply didn't exist. There were no bedrooms, no hallways, no do not disturb signs, no walls separating your life from everyone else's. Just you, your family, your children, your grandparents, and another 20 people sleeping close enough to hear you breathe. So the question is simple. How did ancient humans have privacy? The short answer: they didn't. Here's what nobody tells you. For roughly 300,000 years, humans lived in small bands of around 15 to 50 people. That wasn't just your neighborhood. That was your entire world. You hunted together, ate together, raised children together, sat around the same fire every evening, slept shoulder to shoulder every night. There was almost no moment when someone else wasn't nearby. If you got into an argument, everyone heard it. If you celebrated a successful hunt, everyone celebrated with you. If you cried, you probably weren't crying alone. Modern hunter-gatherer camps had no separate bedrooms, no offices, no quiet corners where you could disappear for an hour. You couldn't storm out after a fight. Your life wasn't private. It was public by default. Now here's the obvious question everyone asks. What about couples? Surely people still wanted moments alone. Of course they did. But here's the interesting part. Instead of building walls, they built unwritten rules. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have noticed several remarkably consistent patterns. The first strategy was timing. Most intimate moments happened after dark, not because everyone was asleep, but because darkness itself creates privacy. Think about walking through a campsite at night. You know other people are there. You simply can't see them very well. Darkness became humanity's first bedroom door. The second strategy was distance. Couples often wandered away from camp. Not very far. That would have been dangerous. Leave the firelight, and suddenly you're sharing the darkness with hyenas, leopards, wolves, or worse. But 20 feet? That was enough. In complete darkness, 20 feet feels like another world. Close enough to return quickly if danger appeared. Far enough to disappear. Sometimes privacy isn't measured by walls. It's measured by shadows. Then came the most important strategy of all. Everyone pretended not to notice. Here's what doesn't make sense until you think about it. Privacy isn't always physical. Sometimes it's social. Imagine you're sharing a small tent with your family while camping. Someone needs to change clothes. There's nowhere else to go. What do? You don't stare. You create privacy by choosing not to acknowledge what's happening. Ancient humans mastered this. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Maybe ancient humans didn't miss privacy because they didn't think about it the way we do. Anthropologist Colin Turnbull, who spent years living with the Mbuti people of Central Africa, observed something remarkable. They had no direct word for privacy, not because they lacked intelligence, because the concept itself wasn't especially important. Think about that. For us, being alone often feels peaceful. For your ancestors, being alone usually meant danger. If you wandered too far from the group, you lost protection. You lost extra eyes watching for predators. You lost people who could help if you were injured. You became vulnerable. For most of human history, solitude wasn't self-care. It was a survival risk. Let's talk about the bathroom. Because yes, everyone wonders. Ancient humans obviously didn't have toilets. When nature called, you simply walked away from camp, usually downwind. Usually to an area everyone understood was meant for that purpose. Did people know where you were going? Of course. Did they follow you? Absolutely not. Once again, social etiquette did the work that walls couldn't. People looked away. They gave you space. Sound familiar? Think about a modern public restroom. Other people are only a few feet away. You can hear them. They can hear you. And yet everyone silently agrees to pretend nobody else exists. You're not truly alone. You're socially invisible. Ancient humans understood that trick thousands of years before the first bathroom door was ever built. Sleep tells the same story. Today, sleeping alone feels normal. For your ancestors, it would have felt terrifying. Night belonged to predators. Temperatures dropped sharply after sunset. Fires needed tending. Children needed protection. Sleeping close together wasn't simply comforting. It was practical. Shared body heat helped everyone survive cold nights. More people meant more ears listening for danger. Someone was almost always awake, adding wood to the fire or checking strange noises beyond the camp. Archaeological evidence from Ohalo II in present-day Israel, dating back roughly 23,000 years, shows small brush shelters barely large enough for families to lie down together. There wasn't room for personal space. There was barely room to roll over. If someone turned in their sleep, everyone noticed. And nobody thought that was strange. What's surprising is how long this continued. People often imagine that privacy arrived with civilization. It didn't. Even in medieval Europe, entire families frequently slept in a single room, sometimes in a single bed. The idea that every child deserves their own bedroom feels completely normal today. For much of the world, it only became common during the 20th century. Your great-grandparents probably lived much closer to ancient humans than you do. So when did everything change? Oddly enough, it started with farming. Around 10,000 years ago, humans began settling permanently instead of constantly moving. Permanent homes meant permanent walls. Walls created separate spaces. Separate spaces eventually created separate rooms. And somewhere along the way, human expectations changed. For the first time, you could close a door. Not because you feared lions, because you wanted to be alone. That seems obvious now. Back then, it was revolutionary. Of course, even then, privacy wasn't universal. It was expensive. Large houses belonged to wealthy families. Most farmers still lived inside simple one-room homes where cooking, eating, sleeping, and working all happened in the same space. Privacy became another form of wealth. The bigger your house, the fewer people you had to share it with. Only over the last few centuries did private bedrooms slowly become an ordinary expectation instead of an extraordinary luxury. What we consider basic today would have seemed unimaginable for almost everyone who ever lived. Here's the part nobody talks about. Modern humans often assume privacy is a universal need. But psychologists have argued that our desire for personal space grows stronger in cultures built around individualism. When your identity revolves around me, privacy becomes valuable. When your identity revolves around us, constant togetherness feels normal. For your ancestors, survival depended entirely on the group. The tribe wasn't part of life. It was life. Every skill you learned came from other people. Every meal depended on cooperation. Every child belonged, in some sense, to the entire community. Being surrounded by people wasn't exhausting. It was reassuring. The sound of breathing beside you meant you weren't facing the darkness alone. Now compare that to today. Many of us spend entire days without speaking to another person. We live behind locked doors. We wear headphones in public. We communicate through screens while sitting alone in separate rooms. Ironically, we've achieved exactly what ancient humans never could: complete privacy. And at the same time, psychologists describe loneliness as one of the fastest growing public health concerns in many parts of the world. The very thing our ancestors almost never experienced has become one of our defining problems. So how did ancient humans have privacy? Not with walls, not with locks, not with separate bedrooms. They created it through timing, through distance, through shared understanding, through the quiet agreement that some moments deserved respect, even when everyone knew they were happening. Privacy wasn't something you built. It was something everyone cooperated to create. And eventually, we built a world where you can close a door, silence your phone, and spend hours without another human being in sight. For nearly 290,000 years, humans almost never experienced true solitude. Today, many of us experience it every single day. Maybe that's the real twist. We spent hundreds of thousands of years inventing privacy, only to discover that what we missed most wasn't being alone. It was having someone just 5 feet away.